Okay, this is on page 24. A couple of things I want to remind you of. Not everything can be done in class, so sometimes I kind of hand it over to you. There was one thing I asked you to fill in, right? Pros and cons of, was it page 19? I asked you to fill this in, so fill in. Fill in. See February 10th. Posting. I did post a PDF of this. So I'm kind of handing this over to you, right? For you to fill this in and be able to explain this. That's on page 19. So we're going to go to page 24. Be aware that this key was posted buying a used vehicle. And just remember that. Okay. Financing a car loan. Guys, if you don't understand interest, you're going to pay a lot of money that you should technically be saving. Okay? So I want to make sure you understand it. So if you feel like I'm overdoing it, keep in mind that I have your best interest in mind. Okay? So I'm going to have, if you are into highlighting, I have my general highlighter, but I also have 3 different colors for this one. 3 different ones. So if you'd like to have the same kind of highlighting that I'm going to do for you to understand this better, this is the time where you get those out. Okay? And have a calculator ready as well. Okay. Financing a car loan. Looking at my time here. Most people cannot afford to buy a vehicle outright, so they borrow the money from a lending institution, right? So from a bank, and pay it back over time. You need to understand that the bank charges interest, which is essentially their profit, right? I think that one you probably have understood that fact over time. I'm pretty sure you do. So at first I'm going to talk about total. Watch this. Total principal, total interest, total paid to the bank. Okay. So the total principal is the amount of loan. Okay. So fill this in. The total principal is basically what they borrow you to pay to buy the car. Okay. This will need to be repaid in full, right? We can use the loan or TP. We call this the loan or TP for total principal, right? Next, we have what I call the total interest. This is the finance charge. Finance charge. There's a charge for them financing you that amount. Another name for it is the cost of borrowing. Borrowing money costs you something. Okay. Then we have total paid to the bank. This is the sum of total principal and the total interest combined. So if you took these 2 amounts that I just talked about, we combine them, that's how much will have been paid to the bank. Can you put this underneath total paid to the bank? Okay, we're gonna call that total paid to the bank. This is TI and this is TP. I know it's already there, but I'm just gonna make sure it sticks out when you look at it. Okay, so here are the 3 highlighters. The total principal is right here. The total interest is right here. And the total paid to the bank is right here. So let's put the letters in there as well. TPV, TP, and TI. I think you can wrap your head around it, right? When you get a loan from the bank, they give you 10 grand, you're going to pay the 10 grand and then some, right? That's just how it goes. And so that's what we call total pay to the bank. When you're paying it back, the amount you started with is going to be, it's not going to be the same that you pay them back. It's going to be an added chunk because that's their profit right here. So let's zoom into one payment here. And I'm going to use my, show you here real quick. Yeah, I'm going to use this. I use a payment calculator. You Google it anytime if you want to borrow money and you want to figure out what your payments will be. So this is what I've used for this, okay? And you also know the signs of liver disease, by the way, just right there on the side, just in case you're wondering. That's an ad. But what I'm going to focus on right here is, you know, you borrow a bunch of money, but this is, and I know some of you have seen this in grade 11, but every month is broken down. Your payment breaks down into interest and principal, okay? Every month, and it changes. Look how the numbers change, right? It goes down over time. So I'm going to zoom into just one payment right now, and I'm going to come back to this. So monthly payment, which I call PMT, is your bank will determine the monthly payment, which stays fixed. Right? The payment stays fixed until the loan is repaid in full. The payment is blended. You all know what a blender does, right? It just mixes everything up. Right? So the payment is blended of two components, right? What does that mean? It means that part of your payment is interest and part of your payment is principal. Okay? See the illustration below. Okay. To distinguish the monthly principal is called lowercase p, while the monthly interest is called lowercase I. Okay. So monthly principal is p, monthly interest is just called lowercase I. Okay. You remember this formula I equals PRT from grade 11? For some of you, you're seeing I party. Yeah, that's right. No, that's what some of you are thinking. But I equals PRT, that's coming back in a bit. So if you want to have a reminder, I will remind you on how that works. Anyways, here goes. The payment is made up of lowercase p plus lowercase I. Every single payment has lowercase p, lowercase I in it. Watch this. Lowercase I, we're going to calculate that. We're going to go P times R times T. This is all multiplying. Okay? Once you calculate this, right? Once you have this number, to find P, we would just go payment, watch where my finger is, right? Payment minus this number that you just calculated. And these are important formulas that I want you to remember and put it on your study sheet. So remember, guys, the payment is made up of P and I, pi. Okay? And you're like, well, Mr. Dixon, what did you do up here? When this is zooming into one payment. This is talking about the entire loan, right? There's going to be a total principal. So every month, part of this goes into here, and part of this I goes into total interest. Okay. Follow me. It'll make more sense a little bit later on. Okay. The term is the amount of time it takes to pay off the loan. Most banks will allow up to 5 years, for used vehicles, 7 years for new vehicles, right? So you can say 5 times 12, right? 60 months for that. And this would be 7 times 12, 84 months for a brand new vehicle. Watch what it says down here. Interest rate, R, right? Interest rate. The bank will charge a posted interest rate, which is stated as a percentage, right? So just make sure that R is the one we talk about that is stated as a percentage. We convert this to a decimal, okay? And divide it by 100. So this is an example. It could be 5.75%. You will turn that into 0.0575. So you basically divide it by 100, which is no news for, shouldn't be news to you, right? 0.0575. Tough, right? Last period of the day, talking about loans and interest. But if you don't understand interest, I hope you understand a general idea at least before you graduate. That's my wish. Okay, let's go over to the next page here. Understanding interest. If you don't understand it, you pay it. That's what Einstein said. The interest paid is essentially the penalty for paying a loan back over a longer period of time. Did you know that? We don't think of it, but it's really the penalty for paying a loan back over a longer period of time. The longer you take, the more interest you're going to pay, guys. It is also referred to as the finance charge. A lot of people do not care to think about interest paid as long as they can afford the payment. I'm guilty of this. As long as I can afford the payment, I'm like, well, whatever, I need the car. I want the car, so charge me, right? The goal of this course is for you to be a smart consumer, and understanding how interest works is essential, okay? So let's assume, let's do a little experiment here. Let's assume you buy a car for 12 grand. Okay, you buy it for 12 grand. You have saved up 2 grand as a down payment. So 12 grand is the car, you have this much. You will pay off 2 grand of that, which means that we need to finance 10 grand, right? Over 12 months at 6% per annum. That's a Latin word saying per year. Same thing. You're going to get charged 6% per year. By the way, interest rates are high right now, so that's actually not stretching. At 6% is probably what you're looking at for a car, if not higher. If you finance it over 12 months, your monthly payment would be, highlight this one. I'm going to use a different color for this one. Let me see. I used green on this one. The monthly payment would be $860.66 per month. I used an online calculator for that. I just showed you that. I will show you that again. Let's fill in the following. The total paid to the bank, right? After 12 months, you will have paid this. You will have paid $860.66 times 12 months, right? Just follow me here and write this down for now. That you made 12 payments of $860.66. Before we even calculate this, right? We all have to, you would have to agree at this point that you'll pay back more than 10 grand, correct? Okay, let's do the math here. 860.66 times 12. That is 10,327.92. This is how much you paid back to the bank over the 12. So not a whole lot, right? $300 is not a whole lot, but you did it over 1 year with a huge payment, by the way. Most of us will do this in 4 to 5 years. Total principal paid, this is your loan, guys. So you basically paid 10 grand back to them, and the total interest would have been 10,327.92 minus the 10 grand that you got from them in the first place. So that difference, this difference, guys, is the total interest paid in this case. So can you imagine, right? Total principal and total interest, these combined give you total paid to the bank. Okay. So let's fill this in. Total paid to the bank, 10,327.92. Of that, the total principal was your loan, the loan you got in the beginning, and this is 327.92. This is the entire loan. This is looking at the entire loan. Okay. Looking at the entire loan. Zoom, put that in a little bubble there so we can now zoom in. Let's zoom into the first payment. The monthly payment, I already calculated this. It's $860.66. I need you to see this for yourselves. You ready, guys? We know I used this calculator, right? And I came up with that payment right there. We're going to do this in a bit. We're going to calculate that ourselves. But watch this. Our first month, if you break down the first month, I hope you can see that. But there's interest is $50 and the principal is $810.66. Can you do some mental math there? What does 50 and 810.66 add up to? Do some mental math. 860.66, isn't it? It adds up to your payment, which is that, right? So no news there. We're going to actually do these calculations. Please look carefully here. What happens to the interest that you're paying on every single payment? Because each one of these pairs make up a payment, every single one. The payment doesn't change, it stays 860, but on the background, the interest that you pay each month is going down. Whereas towards the end, it's just a couple dollars. Right? So this is happening in the background. But together, they always add up to 860.66. I need you to understand that. That's very important here. So we're going to do the first month here, right here. Watch this. We're going to put down 50 here because I told you already. No news there. But this is actually how I calculated that. Watch. I equals PRT. I equals our loan, that's the principal, is 10,000 times, what's our interest rate? 6%, right? That's 0.06. And we divide that by 12 because this interest rate is for a year. We're going to divide it by 12. Time is basically 1 over 12. So if you calculate this, if you go 10,000 times 0.06, you get $600 that you would be paying in a whole year, but you divide that by 12, and that gives you $50 right there. That's how we got this number. Okay, that's how we got that number. And so it stands to reason that the principal, right? So let's put this here. This I is $50. And so this, and the payment we know is $860.66. So if I subtract it, right, if I go 860 minus 50, it must give me that other part there, which I already gave you. That's 810.66. 810.66. Can I just say this? This is the first month's payment. Make sure you understand that. First month's payment is right here. It's $860.66, and it breaks down to this and $50. The $50 the bank gets is they say thank you very much, and the $810.66 that actually goes towards paying off your loan. Okay. Let's go to the other page here. You might have to remember some of these numbers. Oh my goodness, right? That is the one I just showed you here. Watch this. These two, we would call this lowercase I and this lowercase p. And they always make up your payment, which is $860.66. No news there. Okay. So this is zooming in into every single payment. If you were to add up all of these guys, this is what we would call the total interest. This column right here is the total interest you would have paid. And I actually did this by hand. You know what it adds up to? $327.96. What does it add up to in our calculations on the previous page? Isn't it 92, right? It's because the banks round to 2 decimals every single time, and there's some rounding that gets missed there. Okay, so we end up paying a little bit more interest. And this column right here is called the total principal. This one right here, which adds up to, watch this, $9,999.96. Sorry, did I get 96? 96. But these two together give you the total paid to the bank, which is $10,327.92. Okay. So here it is again in a different format, the total interest you've paid, the total principal you've paid, and it's very close to our results in the first page, on the first page, I should say. I know it's a little dry, but I need to do this before I start into the formulas and everything else that we're doing. Here's another one, guys. This is what the payments would look like as a graph. Okay, so you have your months along the bottom, you have the dollar amount up here. Can you do this? Because I already filled this in for you, so you just have to do a little bit more, right? Every single one of these represents 860.66. Please do that. Every single bar represents your payment, which once it's calculated, it does not change. I'm lying to you a little bit. Usually the last payment that you'll be making is less than what you agreed to, because there's a little bit left over at the end. Other than that, it's usually exactly the same. 860.66. And do you notice that the interest, the I, gets smaller and smaller, right? As you pay this off, you pay less and less every month. Let's just fill this in for the first month. The lowercase I is 50. Just put a 50 up here. And this is 810.66. 810.66. And this changes every single month. You could actually go up here and borrow. This one is 45.95. If you look at your chart up there, watch this, right? 45.95 goes here, then it's 41.87, and so forth. So this gets less and less. And the last payment is only $4.28. Okay. I'm going to go a last go at it. This bottom here, this is your TI. This is your total principal. One more time. The whole thing is what we call total paid to the bank, which is $10,327.92. The principal part is $9,999.696, sorry, which is approximately 10 grand, right? We can, for all intents and purposes, you paid back 10 grand. And your interest is 327.96. 327.96. So these combined give you the total paid to the bank. Okay. Pretty interesting stuff, eh? You're all excited about it. I get it. Can I say this? Sometimes I talk about things like these, and you might be like, when is the class over, right? I just need this to lay the foundation, and then I will refer back to some of these pieces when we do examples, okay? So I promise you tomorrow is going to be a lot more hands-on. I promise you. Go ahead. One more thing here. Let's go back up here. Let's go back up all the way to this. This is what we call the amortization schedule. Let's highlight that because that's coming back later on. And it basically just breaks down the payment, the chart. It breaks down every single payment. Don't write this part down. Don't write this part down. But a lot of students think that when you come up with your payment, the whole thing goes towards paying off what you owe, and that's not true. Only part of it goes, right? What you can do to pay it off faster is, let's say it's your birthday, right? And you get, I don't know, if you're lucky, you get $500 from different people. They give you money. You can go to your bank. Let's say it's the 8th month, and just make a lump sum payment. Like you owe them this much after the 8th month. You come and say, $500, please, on my loan. The entire $500 will be applied to bring this thing down. The only thing that pays interest is your actual, what do you call this? Agreed upon payment. This payment pays some interest every time. Anything you put additionally does not pay interest. On top of that, this is how I do it. Okay, when I bought my truck, there's your minimum payment. I told my banker, hey, I want to set up a second payment number 2. Every single month, I want to make an extra $150, an extra payment. Don't write this down because it's going to mess things up for you. I just want to give you an example. I told him, okay, my payment is $860. I want a second payment that comes out on the same date of $150. So it's as if you're making the $860 and the $150 every single month. and it actually shaves off the amount of time it will take to pay this off. It will not take you 12 months. It will take you a lot less, right? So you got to understand that part, okay? That you cannot set up a second payment and pay it off faster. Let's say money is tight, groceries is going up. You're like, you call them or email them and say, can I cancel that second payment? No problem, sir. We'll put a pause on it or we'll cancel it. No penalty there. You cannot cancel this payment, right? That one must be paid. But if you make an additional payment, that you can. So I'm telling you, I went from a 5-year loan to a 3.5-year loan just by adding that second payment. So it makes a difference. You save on time because you paid off faster. You save on interest. Because can you imagine having a payment like this for 5 years versus only 3.5 years, right? You're done, and now this money is available to you to do whatever you want, right? You can go buy a PS5 or whatever. Is that a thing? Is it PS5? I don't know. I lose track. Last time I played, it was a PS2. What else do I want to say here? I think that's all I have to say for this part, the dry part. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to give you a bunch of formulas here. And I want to make sure you write them down. I actually had planned to do this tomorrow. So let me cut you a deal. I have a pretty good feeling that you didn't all finish the questions on buying a used vehicle, correct? I think I have a pretty good feeling. I've done this long enough. If you're done everything, you're just sitting back and you're going to relax for the last little bit. But if you haven't, you go back to page 20, you work on that. The key is up. Last Friday was up. Or if you still need to fill in this, that's on page 19, that's also posted, you do that. Can you, so then I will just stop here, I'll stop my lesson, and you do page 19, or you work on buying a used vehicle, as long as you make use of your time. That's very important to me, okay? So are we okay with that? All right, this is it for lesson today. Tomorrow we'll